Wall Street Memes Casino,
I'm fine.
and Sportsbook. Sign up now for a $20 free bet. Just use the code IFLTV24. Sign up now. Terms and conditions apply.
This is KUGAN CASSIUS for IFL TV. We're on Yas Island here, ahead of the Rising Stars show here in Abu Dhabi tomorrow night. I'm joined by former world champion and all-round toe rag, Barry Jones. How are you, mate?
Yeah, I'm right, mate. I'm good. Yeah, you could have said a lot worse, so I'm happy with that.
I think we've gone past that. We've known each other for quite some years now. In terms of venues, you've been to probably fought in some as well, I think, and attended some kind of interesting venues. This is definitely up there with them, isn't it?
Yeah, it's quite beautiful. Gotta be honest, it really is. And I've done a couple in Dubai, which have been quite nice. So there was a outside in the Hilton Hotel, which was really lovely, and also on a golf course as well a few years back, which was similar to this actually. But this is a little bit special. It really is.
Absolutely. I'm just going to come around here because I feel like I'm kind of overshadowing you. Hold on. That's it. I was overshadowing you. We've got some of the kind of familiar faces that kind of feature on these cards, Badr Samarin and El Bouchi, etc. These kind of guys. Lee Eaton's fighter, Musa Golem, headlines the card. But yeah, some interesting talent on this build tomorrow. Yeah,
there is. Yeah, Musa Golem gets his. This is not. I mean, on paper, this is a fight that he should win. But I mean, this feels like a breakout moment for him, topping the bill. And he's a talent. He's 20 wins, 1 defeat. Debatable defeat, I would say that as well. But he has a lot of talent, but he needs a bit of a push now, I think. Once you get the 21 fights in any era, certainly in this era when people are rushed quick, you've got to start putting him in a bigger test. Now, topping a bill brings a pressure of its own in a winnable fight. So just get that out of the way. I think he'll perform really well tomorrow night, and then I think then you start pushing him on, give him some real tests. We had a test in Russia recently, which I thought he won, but he didn't go quite over the line. It was a close fight, but I mean, he's a real talent, got a lovely good jab, great balance, good movement. He's got a good boxing brain, but maybe just allows his opponents to take the pace a bit. And I think that's what made that fight closer than what it should have been. And if he learns from that and gets it right on Saturday night, I think we get a good performance. But the fights of the night, I feel, is Badr Samarin versus Jeff Afori. That's a real.
The upsetter, Jeff Afori.
Oh, and he just I did his last fight where he boxed tremendously well. But Afori on paper, because he's got a few losses, you tend to think if you don't really look into it, and also he got some good wins, but up until Callum French, not really any real stand-up wins. And you should think, well, he's obviously a good tough fighter, but he's beatable. So if he's beatable when you're undefeated, I can beat him. But he's more than that. He's learned from every fight, and he's been chucked in hard. He had a good apprenticeship, but he's teak tough, and he's very fit, and he's technically in too bad either. I've got to say that. So I think it's a real test for Badr Samarin, who's had it all his own way. Not always. He's had some fights where he hasn't looked great, but I think him in his last few fights have shown a different level of maturity, intelligence in his work. He realised after about 4 or 5 fights that he can't just be a puncher if he wants to go on and be a success in this sport. He has to learn how to box, be patient with his work, and set up those power shots. And I think now he again, I saw about Golem, he's the same sort of level now. He's due a step up, and I think Jeff Afori is that perfect, not to say gatekeeper fight, but that perfect fight where you gauge where you're going to go or where you're not going to go. And I think, and if you don't perform as Afori's shown, he can beat you, he can do the job. So I think that for me, on paper, should be the fight of the night.
It should be interesting here on Yas Island tomorrow. It's definitely ticking the scenic box anyway. So
I don't know. I come a day early. I think the last show we did here, which was another great show, really good show, I sort of came on a Friday and I was disappointed. So I come a little bit day early and had a good look round. It's lovely. And I've been here a couple of times before, live on the Zone. I was with the Zone obviously when Bivol beat Ramirez in an absolutely fantastic performance. But it's a real lovely place. And 7-hour flight, not bad, is it?
What would you want in life?
Oh, not to be overshadowed by giants when they're interviewing me, that's one. You literally have to go and lay down otherwise, mate.
Sticking with the Middle East theme, obviously a lot going on 2 or 3 hours away from here in Saudi Arabia. Barry, what have you made of it all? I mean, let's talk about this fight that's been announced obviously for March the 8th with Anthony Joshua and Francis Ngannou. Is this potentially an upset? Is this potentially a banana skin? I mean, how are you seeing this? What do you think about this as a matchup between AJ and Ngannou?
Well, I still don't know how good Ngannou is. You know, he boxed really well against Fury, which he lost. It was a close fight. He did better than I even expected, including Fury, but he didn't get over the line. And I think the decision was the correct one. People will argue that because all the big moments were Ngannou's. So we still don't know how good he is. But you tend to think because Fury's still, I'm going to get stick for this, still the best heavyweight in the world. I feel. Now, if you're only as good as your last fight, he's not. But overall, when he gets it right, he stands above. I think, in my opinion. But he also, because of his style and his ability and how erratic he is in his performances, he does give you opportunities. Where someone like Joshua, when he's confident, like he was in his last performance, which was fantastic, that Joshua and the Joshua before Ruiz, is very structured in his work and strong. So I would tend to think he would do better against Ngannou because he'll expose what should be technical flaws in Ngannou's makeup. But what Ngannou did show against Fury was good shape. Like I don't watch UFC, but I have to watch a bit of it for him for that fight against Fury. And when he throws that right hand, he brings the right foot forward, squares himself up, and I thought that's a danger of getting knocked out or hurt. But he didn't do that against Fury. He turned from the hip, from the waist, kept his shape really well. So I think, and because he's athletic, and apparently I've been speaking to people who work in the UFC, who work on MMA, and they say he generally has raw power. It's not just like you can hit that machine hard. He generally has touch you, put you to sleep power. So that makes it a threat for Joshua. But the Joshua we've seen against Wallin, even though Wallin is not the great, I think we oversold Wallin, but I think it was about how Joshua is mentally and physically. And I think that's the best we've seen him. So that Joshua, I think, beats Ngannou and beats him quite comfortably.
Interesting comment you made there, Barry, about Wallin being oversold. Was he oversold, or are we making these comments now because of how Joshua dispatched him?
No, I say that. I don't discredit Wallin. Wallin's a good fighter. He is a good fighter. We sold him but we oversold. I think we all oversold him a little bit. I do feel that, but because of what he did against Fury, what he did Fury just made a really hard, tough night for him. And the Gassier fight, a good win, but I've never sold on Gassier as a heavyweight. I would say that, but he didn't look great against Joshua. But then Joshua looked very good, so maybe that was the point of that. But I think it was never about Wallin for me. I thought it was a real test for a real danger fight for Joshua and a fight that he could lose. I thought that much. I'm not denying that. I'm not going back on my word on that. But it was about Joshua, not about Wallin. It was about how he performs because he looked mentally fragile. He had no confidence in his jab. But in Riyadh, not in Jeddah, he looked awful. In Riyadh, he looked really good, Joshua. He had confidence in that jab, and that's what gave him the power for the right hand. And he bullied him like he used to, with intelligent work. Not like swinging like a lunatic. He was never that fighter. It was always with intelligent work, and he was intelligent over in Riyadh on December the 23rd. He boxed really well, and I think for his mental state, where he had, now, you got the knockout. The Hellenius performance wasn't great, but the knockout was fantastic because he committed to an attack and it worked. And then that fight there, again in December, just solidified there when he's going in the right direction. And everyone goes on about trainers, and I'll say it until the day I die. The trainer's only as good as the fighter. That's the bottom line. But a trainer's also worth his weight in gold if you get the right fit and he's right for you. And I do feel, for the first time since Robert McCracken, that Ben Davison might be boxer-sized Ben, people used to call him, not anymore. But
I think they still call him that, to be fair.
Well,
tongue in cheek, but yeah.
But let's all get a boxer-sized Ben in, because I think he's done wonders with Joshua. And I think there was work already been put in place, but I don't think they overcomplicate things. They got Lee Wiley, and they're really technical in what they do, and they use advanced technology with studying how fighters work, and it's brilliant and it works for them. But I still think they keep it quite simple. And for Joshua, I don't think the more information you give him, it clouds his judgment, and he gets too many thoughts in his head, makes him tentative of his attacks. And without that, when he's overthinking his attacks, there's no commitment. Without commitment, he's half the fighter he was, which he's shown. So with commitment and with simple instructions, makes him the fighter that we used to see. And whether that beats Fury, whether that beats Usyk, if they ever fight again, that's irrelevant. You just be the best you can be, and then on your night, your best versus their best, and we'll see what happens. I still think Fury beats him, whatever. But I've said this in being pedantic a little bit, is if you're only as good as your last fight, who's the best heavyweight in the world today? If you're only as good as your last fight.
Well, depending on who you fought, really, isn't it?
In that case, even so. So, I think Fury's the best heavyweight in the world still. But on his last performance against a novice, he looked absolutely awful. Wilder's obviously just got beat, and Joshua boxes the best he's boxed in a long time. He's not the best heavyweight in the world, but if you want to, if people always use that little analogy about you're only as good as your last fight, you would make Joshua number one. I don't, and before it gets twisted, the headline is Joshua's number one. But I think there's an interesting fact that he's back in the mix. Before, you would, like you say, he's a top 5 heavyweight, but so far off the top 3 that he might as well be in a different weight class. Now, he's not so far off anymore, and he's getting back to it. And that's good for boxing. Whether you're a fan of Usyk, Wilder, Fury or Joshua, whoever you're a fan of, with Joshua back in the mix, and if Wilder can maybe get a win again, that makes that division again a really exciting division. Because at the minute, I think we're a little bit lost to find out who we got. And luckily, February, we're going to find out.
Yeah, just finally, obviously, the next kind of 2 or 3 months of the heavyweight division, we're going to see this ever-changing landscape of it, and a lot's going to be clearer. Obviously, we've got Fury and Usyk on the 17th, Joshua fights. I mean, there's rumours that Wilder is going to be on that bill as well, possibly against Zhang. I mean, yeah, there's a lot that can happen in the next 3 months that kind of deters what happens for the rest of the year.
Yeah, and that's all we've ever wanted. Even though it's not in the UK or America, depending on where your fan base is, it's in a different region, but they're making the fights happen. So let's be happy. As a boxing fan, take away all the politics and whatever your views are on anything else. The fights are happening in the heavyweight division. When that flourishes, it helps every other weight class down, all the way down to the strawweights. It helps us all. That's the truth, because it brings a different audience. It brings an audience who don't really watch boxing to the sport, and that helps us, of course. So, though I get criticised now because I don't say that the same about the misfit stuff. but either way, I think it's important that we get a number one, and I think on February we find that out. Fury and Usyk is clearly for who's going to be number one. No, I think Usyk didn't box bad against Dubai. People are saying he didn't box very well. That's an Usyk performance. He was going through the gears. I thought. I didn't think it was close. I think Dubai boxed quite well until he didn't. Until what happened, and then obviously he stayed on his knee. But up until that point he was boxing quite well. But Usyk was still in control, I felt. And Fury looked awful in his last fight, but I think he must have took it lightly. And Ngannou was maybe better than what we thought, or last into play, but we'll see. Because there's always a worry that we don't take the age factor, the inactivity, and the wars. That last Wilder fight was a hard fight. Fury chose to make it a hard fight, but it's still a hard fight. Has he tipped over the top of the hill? Is he starting to decline a bit? I mean, someone who's a reactional fighter, naturally a reactional fighter, even though he's been more aggressive than usual in his last few years. If you lose your sharpness, you're done. It's more apparent for boxers.
Test, check one.
It's my dad.
Check two,
It's dinner time. I'll be there in a minute, Dad.
Okay, well, Barry, thank you very much for your time, as always. How much money would you want for me to launch you into that water?
You launch you. See, you people, right? You're around boxers and fighters. You think you can't be tough by proxy.
check,
No,
check,
I'm not trying to be tough. I'm trying to be funny. Like it would do views for me to chuck you in there, but you'd have to agree to it. You'd have to give me consent. I couldn't do it mandatory. I couldn't.
This is like discrimination for because this is close to fighting a midget, a short person. I fucked myself up now, I'm out of a cannon. What do I say? I made it worse.
Fire you out of a cannon.
No, you can't. But that's what you're pretty much saying, isn't you? Just fight him out of a cannon, like the little like years ago when they took.
How much would you want?
What's that?
How much would you want?
Half what you got in the bank. There you go. See, I can retire there. We all know the money you got.
Do we? I don't even know the money I've got. Barry Jones, thank you very much for your time. We look forward to a great night here tomorrow on Yaz Island. What?
Stop playing me your knob. Stop playing me your knob.
You've got to turn it weird, haven't you?
You like this?
No, it's this.
No, I like that.
It's this.
No, it looked.
It's just weird, didn't you?
You made it look suspicious. You were like playing with yourself. It was. And see you later.
On that note, thank you very much, Barry Jones, former world champion of the world.
Wall Street Memes Casino,
I'm fine.
and Sportsbook. Sign up now for a $20 free bet. Just use the code IFLTV24. Sign up now. Terms and conditions apply.